Welcome to another edition of the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. Hey there, I'm Bill Sherck, the man about the woods, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the winter season around us. Probably overdue to talk a little bit of fishing. Of course, the Minnesota Bound podcast is presented each week by our good friends at Connecticut Water Treatment Systems. My family uses Connecticut, and you should too. We can't forget the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources and also Star Bank, the bank we use here at Minnesota. Okay, if you're going to talk ice fishing, it's probably the right thing to do to go to the source. Tony Roach spends, I would guess, more time on the ice here in Minnesota than any other person around. Tony, how the heck are you today?
I'm doing great, Bill. I can't believe the temperatures this far. Ice fishing's been a real treat. It's not a normal year, that's for sure, but it's just good to be out there. Yeah, it's been a great year. A little bit of a delayed start, but I can't complain. Anytime you can be out ice fishing in Minnesota where their temps are above 0 degrees for multiple days on a row, you're not going to hear this guy complain.
I picture you being the guy who misses leg workout day. You've got these skinny little chicken legs, and these giant shoulders and arms. Legitimately, how many ice holes do you think you have drilled this winter so far?
I never want to put a number on it because it's not something I think about from a number perspective. It's just who I am as a person. I never wanted to be the person to drill this many holes, but I think about it like I think in open water terms. Like if I could just get my boat over here to check out to see if the fish are biting, or if I could look over here, well, it's not as easy to do in the winter. So it just most of the time requires you to drill a lot of holes. And that's why I get to that reputation of hole hopping and ice trolling. It's not because I enjoy drilling holes. It's because I want to see what's on the other side. It drives me nuts that I can't, like you do in a boat. I always tell customers within 20 seconds I can check a spot and be on to the next spot, checking that one to find the fish. And in the winter, it's not that easy. So I just, a long time ago, decided, you know what, I'm going to grab my auger. I'm going to drill lots and lots of holes until I land on the school of fish that I want. I want to be catching fish. I don't want to be sitting out there telling people, you should have been here yesterday.
You're underselling it. You're the guy who goes home at night, has a cold beer, and you accidentally crush the can.
I wish. The nice part about augers these days is they're getting lighter and lighter. So as I get older, I'm leaning towards these electrics, using these ultralight augers. So I'm not really even getting a workout anymore like I used to.
Well, all right. In all seriousness, you are one of the premier guides in Minnesota. Do you focus most of your winter time on Mille Lacs?
Yeah, we do a lot of trips on Mille Lacs just because it's a destination for people. Bill, Mille Lacs. I mean, you can go out there and catch really world-class walleyes during the daytime hours, which that's not always the case for walleyes throughout the winter months. And Mille Lacs is one of those destinations where you can go out and get a big trophy walleye, or you can get good numbers of walleyes during daytime hours. And so, yeah, I mean, we spend the bulk, especially of the early season, I would say December, January, primarily focusing on Mille Lacs. Once we start to get into February, March, our guide surf, we shift a little bit. Not that we're not on Mille Lacs, but we're on Mille Lacs. We start to shift towards perch fishing. Mille Lacs, just the way the state of the state, the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, the perch fishing isn't as good. So we go head up towards Winnebagosh. We fish a lot of lakes up by Winnie. We also do a lot of panfish trips on smaller lakes, and that starts as early as early February. And then, of course, once we get into March, it's all pan fishing and perch fishing. It's amazing how many people will come to Minnesota for the walleyes early, and then we get those same people that come back in February and March for the perch fishing.
Yeah, because they just love it so much. Perch are special,
Well,
no doubt.
and I think we take for granted in Minnesota how awesome the resources are that we have right in our own backyards, right? We have great panfish lakes, we have great bass lakes, we have great walleye lakes, perch fishing. The options are endless. So, something that we think or maybe take for granted that it's just always there, people from all over the ice belt or even outside the ice belt come here and have a wonderful, just an awesome experience.
It's funny. I had a buddy text me this morning. I coach his son in hockey, and they want to go ice fishing today. And he said, "Look, I'm the guy. I'm a little bit lame. I've got an ice rod and a bucket. What am I supposed to do?" I said, "Go out, get some small jigs, get some wax worms, and go out and find the edge of the weeds. Go to Carson's Bay on Lake Minnetonka. Just go to the edge, drop it down. You're going to be able to catch fish." And that's pretty basic advice, right? But in so many places here in Minnesota, it actually works.
Yeah, it is. I remember I grew up on a lake and I had a hand auger. I didn't even have a depth finder. I just had a couple jiggle sticks and I just walked down out in front of my parents' dock. I knew where I caught them in the summer when I'd cast a bobber off the dock. So I wouldn't go that far off my parents' dock and I'd catch perch and pike and whatever came by. And back then it wasn't as technical, but I still caught fish. And today is the same thing. What's cool about ice fishing, though, is the technological part of it, how
Yes.
advanced it's gotten. And I think that's what drives a lot of people to our location as well and people gravitate towards ice fishing because of the technology. I get people that I've had several already this season that come up, they want to ice fish because it's a bucket list thing, or they just want to experience it. And then all of a sudden they call next year and they come back next year and they have the warm gear and they have their own electronics. They had such a good time that it's a destination for them now. I have so many customers that either live just on the southern tier of the ice belt or live elsewhere where they don't get ice. And they come up year after year after year, and it's crazy the money that they spend on gear. But it's no different than you and I going to a destination where we bird hunt, for example. We may not have those birds in our backyard, but every year we look forward to that trip. Ice fishing is getting to be that way. It wasn't like that 10 years ago. The bulk of my business 15, especially 15 years ago was summer. And then, I'd do some ice trips early in the season and then they would be sprinkled throughout the winter. Now, we're jam-packed with people all season long because they come here because it's a destination for them. It's something they like doing in the winter, similar to snowmobiling or any other winter activity.
So you add to that the whole COVID factor, the idea that, it's a good, safe activity to get outdoors and have some fun. Do you feel like you're seeing more people on the ice?
Oh, incredible. It started this summer. I was a little worried about winter just because, it seemed like in November, COVID started really ramping up. And I thought, okay, well, here we go. People are going to put the brakes on. But not the case. It's people are out. They're participating in ice fishing and in numbers like I've never seen before. I saw it this summer. Boat ramps were full every single day.
Right.
I'd go to these little backwoods lakes where normally there's no one. You don't even see tire tracks, and all of a sudden there'd be 3 or 4 boats and trailers parked there. That carried right over into winter here. So yeah, definitely people are participating in big numbers. You see it at tackle shops. I see it on the ice every day. I get the phone calls, the emails. It's absolutely incredible, and it's great. It's great to see people get out and do something rather than sit in their house. It's a safe activity. You can social distance, and it's fun. It's great to see this uptick in activity.
And I've always been of the belief that the more people that get out and enjoy a specific resource, the more they will want to appreciate and protect them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that overstating it a little bit, or do do you feel like there's some merit to that?
I think there's a lot of merit to that. If you look at angler participation, or talking about youth angling in particular, a guy once told me, if we don't get these young anglers involved with the sport of fishing by age 12, we're going to lose them for life. And he said there's studies that show if kids don't fish by age 12, there's like an 80% chance that they'll never pick it up their entire life. And, what statement really stuck in my head was the fact that he said, if we don't get these kids involved with it, they're at age 12 now. In 6 years, they're going to be adults. They're going to be voting. They're going to be, involved with, being an adult. And if they don't care about the resources and the natural resources that we cherish as Minnesotans, we've lost a whole generation. And he was 100% right. And so it's great to see these people out participating. It's great to see this big uptick. And I think you're right. I think these people will cherish the fact that we have these great natural resources in our backyard. And I think there's a responsibility there for the resource itself, whether it's cleaning up on the ice or whether it's not over harvesting. I've always been in the camp where I've been able to fish my entire life. I grew up on a lake. I guided throughout college. I fished tournaments. I've always been in fishing, so I never really had that need where my sole purpose to go out fishing was to catch fish for the freezer. My thing with fishing is I always wanted a different experience, whether it's fishing the Gulf of Mexico, going up to Alaska, fishing Minnesota, going to Canada, Dakotas, Wisconsin, wherever it may be. It wasn't about packing the freezer. It was about having the best experience I could, enjoying it with my dad, enjoying it with my grandfather, now enjoying it with my kids. We like to have a fish fry every now and then, but our sole purpose is just to go out and catch fish. I mean, we just want to have a good time.
All right, I want to figure out where your bucket list spot is, where you're dreaming of. But first, we're going to pay some bills. And that happens first with our good friends at Connecticut. Hey, the Shercks love Connecticut water. It's no secret. We live out in the country and we have plenty of that ironclad well water. That's good news, and there's bad news to it, right? We treat all of our water with Connecticut Whole Home Water Treatment System. We also use Connecticut's K5 drinking water system. That white buildup you get around your faucets and around the shower head? Well, we have none of that. Our dishes are clean, and my wife Katie loves the Connecticut water for her hair, her skin, and as I always say, I think the best promotion is the fact that our boys, every time they're headed to hockey practice or soccer, they're going to the K5 system to fill their water bottles. Trust me, try out Connecticut. Give them a call like we did and look forward to clean, safe water. Another of our key sponsors are good friends at Star Bank.
Hi there, Ron Shera here for Star Bank. If you're putting your money into mega banks down the street, who knows where that money's being used? Bank locally. Keep your money local with a community bank that actually cares about you, your family, your business, and your goals. Check out the bank we use at Minnesota Bound. Try Minnesota's own Star Bank. You can find them online at starbank.net. When you call Star Bank, you actually hear a real living person answering the phone. Star Bank has 10 convenient locations around Minnesota to serve you and all the mobile banking products that you need to manage your money. Check out all that Star Bank has to offer at starbank.net.
And of course, who could forget about the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources?
I just want to thank the Minnesota DNR. And as we know, Minnesota's wildlife management area are a vast array of lands across all of Minnesota. And there are approximately 1,400 wildlife management areas that are valued for wildlife in Minnesota's outdoor recreation opportunities. So speaking of recreation, to find out more about Minnesota's wildlife management areas, you can go to mndnr.gov/WMAS.
Okay, before we get to our guest bucket list trip today for ice fishing, I want to ask Tony Roach, Minnesota's premier ice fishing guide, about how you get started. I know you have people constantly at sports shows and on the ice recognize you and say, "Oh my gosh, I want to be just like you." Like, how did you come to be? Did you have some epiphany one day as you were sitting on an ice bucket as a kid and you said, "I want to do this forever and I want to make a bunch of money doing it"? Like, how does that come to be?
Well, I'm still waiting to make a bunch of money doing it. um, Anyone that works in the outdoor industry isn't making a bunch of money. But I, you know, the ice fishing piece of this puzzle just sort of happened. I actually started out as a summer fishing guide, and like I said, fishing tournaments. I've always had this overwhelming desire or drive to fish. Even when I was a little kid, I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and run down the hill at my parents' house and be out on the dock. And I had a father who just really kind of fueled the passion. I got a boat when I was 10 years old. He, got me electronics and rods and just sort of fueled the passion. Remember in college, I had an opportunity. I went up to guide up in Flag Island Resort. My dad set me up with rods and tackle and jigs and everything I needed for Lake of the Woods. I continued to fish tournaments throughout my teenage and college years, even in my early 20s. And, then, kind of life happens, right? I got a real job. I had a real girlfriend. I wasn't going back up to Lake of the Woods. Guiding, I kind of, I had to start life, right? And I built a house in a cul-de-sac, kind of in the St. Michael, Albertville area. My wife was going to school at the U at the time, and I had a real job. And it was, I still was guiding on the weekends, and in the summer, I was still fishing tournaments. But it was like, okay, well, that fishing part of my life is probably over here because I'm getting married and I got kids coming. But both me and my wife, we kind of. We're teammates in life. Back then, even I said, honey, I really wasn't built to live in a cul-de-sac, and like where we're living, I want to be up north. I want to fish. My whole life, I had envisioned myself fishing, and here I am working a job which I liked. It was a lot of hours, but I liked my job at the time. And she liked, being in the cities with Targets being, a Target being close and, the stores at her fingertips. So I was a little nervous that, this is where I'm heading. So I just changed it. I just started, I started my guide service. Like I said, I was doing a little bit of guiding in the summer, no winter guiding at this point. And, I tried to get my name out there. I'd go to DU banquets and give away free trips all the time. And I'd go to the next banquet or deer chapter and give away trips. It was a lot of giveaway. I was doing a lot of stuff for no money at all. I went to sports shows. I was fortunate enough to kind of get my foot in the door a little bit with a few companies in the sense where, they allowed me to come to the sports shows and work their booths. And so, I just built it from there. Matter of fact, I remember sending an email out to all sorts of different manufacturers in the fishing world and really didn't get any response back. I mean, just said, hey, my name's Tony Roach. I'm a guide, and it was kind of just fell on deaf ears. And I had some tournament success at this point too. So, but kind of just got brushed aside. Didn't really, nobody really reached out to me. Well, at that time, Northland Tackle reached out to me, and so did Strike Master Augers, and said, hey, if you want to work the booth. So I was happy to. I came down and worked these booths, and I was so pumped to be at the Northwest Sports Show or, the St. Paul Ice Show or any of these events, even in-store events. And I was just happy to be working there. And it just grew from there. I started building a guide service to the point where in a couple of years, I was able to build up a clientele where I could leave my job and guide, but it was mainly just for the summer months. I didn't have any real winter business, a couple here and there. There was no real established winter guides, right? There was resorts that rented houses. I mean, I'd get asked all the time. They're like, "You guide in the winter? What do you do? Like, you rent a house like at a resort?" I'm like, "No, like I take people out, we drill holes, we move around and stay on fish." Well, once I convinced a few of my summer customers to do it, they had a blast. We caught a ton of walleyes, we caught a ton of fish all the time, and so then it grew from there. And I had a few opportunities with some outdoor TV programs that were kind of getting into filming ice fishing, and we had really good success. I had another big group that kind of was handed to me through one of these resorts, and it was the time of year where the fishing wasn't really good. Well, I took these guys out. They had gone out with another guide the day before and only had caught a couple walleyes, and they went out with me, and we got like 40 walleyes that day. So then, that word of mouth sort of spread, and so on and so forth. And I was really nervous that first couple years of guiding what I was going to do in the winter. I told my wife, I'm not sure what I'll be. I don't know what we're going to do. I'll figure it out. I'll work another job if I have to, but I really never had to do that. Once I turned my back and me and my wife decided to move back up north and live where we want to, I started fishing, and things fell into place for me. And I was just really fortunate. To get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and do what I love doing on a day-to-day basis. It's a dream come true, because this is something that has been my passion since I was a little kid, and every day I get to do a different adventure. Sometimes it's on Mille Lacs, other times it's pan fishing, sometimes it's on Winnie, Red Lake, wherever I go, I get to fish summer and winter, and I like the season changes. I love spring. When spring comes, I'm ready to put the ice fishing stuff away. Once fall hits, I'm still sort of in hunting mode. But as soon as I step foot on the ice, it's like a light switch that goes off, and I'm right into ice fishing mode, full blown. And I love it. I love the season changes. I love what I do for work. Every day it's a blessing to be able to do what you love to do. I don't think a whole lot of people can say that.
Yeah, for sure. But it's the old mantra, right? If you're the guide, and you want to go out and ice fish a lot, you never get to ice fish.
Yeah, and then that's a balancing act that I have now because I have kids, and sure. I want to get them involved in the sport of fishing and hunting, and I'm always getting pulled in different directions, whether it's sports shows or this or that or guiding, and so it's a balance. And my wife keeps me grounded in the sense where hey, your son wants to go fishing, or I make time for my kids. We if the silver lining of anything of COVID, I think a lot of people would agree, is the family time that we got to spend. I took these kids fishing every single day last spring. We got to spend a ton of time out in our pontoon and fishing and having fun at the lake, because we didn't have baseball games every night or softball games every night. Fast forward into this fall, we deer hunted together. My kids both shot really nice deer. We had a ton of time in the deer stand. We shot birds. I will, this whole time period, of COVID, I'm not going to look at it that I was locked in the house or that I got denied of this. I will look it back, hopefully, and say, man, I really cherish the time that I got to spend with those kids and with my wife.
Well, Tony, you and I are sort of in the same boat. That's a little fishing pun right there, in case you didn't catch it. We both have kids, right? And your priorities change a little bit, as do your limitations of time. But are there spots that you daydream where you say, if I could take an ice rod and a little rig and get out, oh my gosh, I'd love to do that. Like, where is that for you?
It's a lot of places, and it's like if you can envision the little thought bubbles like on a cartoon. Even throughout the day, I'm thinking about pan fishing or thinking about going to Lake Winnipeg or Devil's Lake, North Dakota, or Green Bay, whatever it may be. I think about that all season, not just for ice fishing. Like I said, I've been blessed to be able to fish a lot of different locations because that's what I like doing. When I go on vacation, most of the time it's fishing related, right? And I can my wife my wife will go along with it, even though she's not a huge fisher angler, not a huge angler or fisher woman. But she'll go along with me. And so, we've gone to Cabo, we've gone all over the place. I just like different experiences. Even when I'm on Mille Lacs, let's say I've guided for walleyes, 5 days in a row or whatever then I have this desire to go bass fishing, or maybe it's a good topwater bite that I know of on a small lake or whatever it may be. It changes throughout the season. So like right now, I'm really excited to go perch fishing because I've been walleye fishing like crazy. I've done some pan fishing, but I love perch fishing. I have since I was a kid. My dad used to take me to Lake Winnebagosh when I was a kid, and we'd perch fish, and it was incredible. And so right now, I'm sort of my little thought bubbles there. It's perch fishing is definitely in the forefront, and then of course not being able to go to Canada this year. With us not being able to get into Canada, lake trout fishing, Lake Winnipeg, all those great destinations, even Lake of the Woods, all those great destinations that I like doing in the winter, kind of as my getaway. I can't do it, so I can't scratch that itch. So those are obviously on those thought bubbles.
So for you, it's a lot about just the next trip.
Yeah, and different. It's the next trip. I'm looking for the next experience. It's interesting. You go to different parts of the country, whether they're covered in ice or open water, and fishing's fishing, right? It's amazing how much you can learn from a captain in, let's say, the Columbia River walleye fishing, and then you go up to Lake Winnipeg, you go down to Minnesota, Mille Lacs, like how fishing is fishing, regardless who you go, or regardless of species. Sometimes fish relate to the same things. Their desire to feed and on different things throughout the season changes, but it's really similar. It's amazing. A lot of people look at bass fishing as just bass fishing, where I always look at, I've taken a lot of bass techniques that I've learned throughout the years and used them on walleyes and had great success. Whether it's throwing, paddle tails or swim baits, jerk baits, hair jigs. I've had, you name it. There's so many techniques that you can use bass fishing that you can walleye fishing, and vice versa. So
yep, I'm always
looking for that other experience. And so ice fishing, on the forefront of in my head right now, I can't wait to go whale on some perch, because the walleyes are starting to get into January funk, where you have a great morning and evening. You might have some days that are outstanding, but you're going to have some days where it's cold front and they're not biting. I want to go whale on fish, and perch are a great species that just bite, right? They're aggressive. You can catch them in a lot of locations, and those big jumbo perch are just special to me.
All right. If people want to find you, not physically, but if they want to call you up and see if you happen to have a little hole in your schedule, what's the best way to do that?
roachesguideservice.com. They can also, reach out to me on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Tony Roach Fishing. But the easiest way would probably be my website, roachesguideservice.com.
Otherwise, look for the guy with the giant arms and shoulders, because he's been drilling more holes than anyone in the world.
Well, they used to be able to hear the gas auger in the distance. Now I'm under the radar with all these great lithium battery powered augers.
I love it. Well, I wish you continued success. You are truly one of the good guys in this industry. And I was being kind of serious earlier. There are a lot of people who want to be you. You're on the ice. You're creating positive memories for so many people. And you are a fishing leader here in the state. So you are appreciated, Tony.
Thanks for having me, Bill. It's always good chatting with you, buddy.
I love the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. We join you each week, and we have some really good partners that help us make this happen. Again, a big thanks to Star Bank, the bank we use at minnesotabound.com. Also, our good friends at the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. And don't forget Connecticut Water Treatment Systems. Clean, safe, great tasting water. I kind of have an urge. I think I'm going to get on the ice this afternoon, and I hope you all get a chance to do the same. Until next week, don't forget to introduce a kid to the great outdoors. See ya.